listen to the crowds behind me here in the centre of Idlib, chanting and cheering. 8 years into this war and people are still taking to the streets Turkish military vehicles, and they're heading to the Turkey-Syria border. Civilians in the area, more than 3 million people it's estimated. He's saying that for the children here who are caught in this war that there's no childhood. So you can see the police there trying to stop people getting any closer. You can just see Trump banners as far as the eye can see. You've had the National Guard deployed at the request of the DC mayor. Let's just show you what's happening here. It's people trying to breach the Capitol building, and they're trying to get through right now. They're breaching the building. They're actually breaching the building right now. At the moment, this is the pro-Trump rally right now, and they are breaching the building. There is tear gas in the air. We've been conducting an investigation into illegal Greek pushbacks. That's the practice where the Greek authorities are taking refugees from the Greek islands, taking them out into international waters, into Turkish territorial waters, and in some cases abandoning them in boats. Well, this is it. This is the front line, and we are as far south in Syria as you can go in opposition held territory. I want to know why they've stayed here for so long when there's
we don't want to go anywhere.
Sara from TRT World, I'd just like to know what people... Sir, you're here for the peace talk. Can you tell us why the Syrian government continues to carry out attacks in civilian areas?
Can you stop it, please?
What would you say to people who are saying that the UN's failed to protect civilians in Syria?
I think what has failed in Syria spectacularly is political action to stop the war.
And the identity of Mosul, and you can see it's completely destroyed. Well, 10 years of war in Syria have devastated the country. Hundreds of thousands of people have been killed, detained, disappeared. More than half the population of Syria are displaced, both outside of Syria and here inside Syria. You can see some of the camps and tents behind me where we are here in northern Syria. And we're actually joined by some children here that I just want to show you that have come from the camp. Assalamu alaikum. شو اسمك؟ شو اسمك؟
صفاء.
صفاء. شو اسمك؟
إسراء.
إسراء. شو اسمك؟
تركيا.
Turkey. And the children that we've been speaking to over the last couple of days, they've told us that despite their situation in the camps here, they're still going to school, they're still trying to get their education. They've told us they want to be teachers, they want to be engineers, they want to be doctors. So as you can see, there is still a lot of hope here in Syria, despite the very difficult situation that's faced by many of these people. This is the new front line in Libya's war. After forces loyal to the UN-recognised government pushed illegal militias out of Tripoli, the fight has moved to Sirte. So we've come to one of the frontline areas near to Sirte, and this is actually an area that until fairly recently the LNA had control of. Now forces loyal to the UN-recognised government have recaptured this area, and they're bolstering their forces in the area. And if we just look over here, you can actually see that on the walls there are some of the writings of the names of the LNA brigades. Between military posts are these wide open expanses of land. Any battle for control of the city of Sirte is going to be significantly more difficult and look very different to the fighting that took place around Tripoli. In Tripoli, you had those front lines in residential areas with lots of cover. But the front lines leading up to the city of Sirte, they look like this. Wide open areas of uninhabited land. Onwards a little more, and this is pretty much the farthest point under the control of government forces. Beyond this point are Sirte and Haftar's militia. The UN-recognised government has said there will be no lasting ceasefire as long as Haftar has control of Sirte.
We are fully ready. We're just waiting now for orders to start the operation, and then we'll take Sirte and even cities after Sirte.
We ask about Egypt's statements it may deploy forces to Libya to support Haftar.
We'll respond with a forceful hand if Egypt deploys ground forces.
The police chief in Abu Grein, near the new front lines, tells us keeping civilians safe right now is a challenge.
The military escalation really affects civilians badly. People will be displaced and will be very scared. This is always happening because of war.
For now, around these front lines, there's a significant military build-up. There's no active fighting right now on this front line, but fighters here tell us that they're ready. Right now, the situation around Sirte remains a military standoff. This is Mohammed and his family. Not many people will remember their names or their story, and they don't have a social media hashtag. He and his family escaped an airstrike with their lives.
We were in our house in a room like the one in which we are here when warplanes bombed us. My wife put the children in the corner of the room, trying to calm and protect them. There were some injuries on their bloody faces. It was a state of terror.
He's ended up at this camp for displaced people on Idlib's borders. His home not so far away, in the Aleppo countryside town of Atarib, and in a so-called de-escalation zone. This is all that remains of Mohammed's house after that airstrike. Now, when Russia and the Syrian regime carry out these airstrikes, they often say that they're targeting militant positions. But what you're seeing here is the reality, the aftermath of many of those airstrikes. This particular strike hit a civilian area, hitting homes and a busy marketplace. Local sources tell us the triple airstrike was carried out by Russian warplanes and killed more than 50 people. A police station nearby was also reduced to rubble. The problem for civilians in these areas is that groups like Hayat Tahrir al-Sham that have links to Al-Qaeda are largely in charge. And there are few international actors who support that control continuing.
There were no terrorists. Kalashnikov rifles were far from our neighborhood. There were only children, markets, food and clothes. It was supposed to be a safe area. Idlib and Atarib were safe zones. We no longer trust the peace conferences. We will never be surprised if an area is attacked while we are in it.
One story among millions. At least 400,000 people dead. But the war continues. Not ignored exactly, but not stopping either. And with little or no accountability for the war crimes that are taking place here.